What's up, everybody? Axe Wizard here, working on my game some more. I gotta be quick because I woke up early and been working on my game, and I've only got like a half hour till I have to get ready for work. So let me just show you what I've got. Boom. So we opened the game up. Awesome. Cool. Thanks for checking out the game. No, I'm kidding. So we hit test, and this now brings us to the screen that I'm working on. So last time I did a devlog, I found out how to dynamically create collision shapes and light occluder shapes just based on the sprite. And I've taken that and I've made it into I basically started a ship creator, and I've got it halfway done. And the rest of it should be pretty quick to finish once I can just dedicate an hour or two to finish it. So anyway, what this is asking is select the sprite to use for your ship. So, okay, cool. So I'm going to go to my sprites, and you could actually, I think, go anywhere and select a random image. But say, for example, if I wanted to add this coalition fighter, which I haven't added to the game yet, what it does is it places it in this little viewport for you, similar to how it did in the ship screen where you can buy ships and stuff like that. But what this did is once you select that sprite, it creates a ship for you. It sets that as the sprite. It also sets that a collision shape and the light occluder shape. So it's got that out of the box. And then you got several tabs here that you can use to basically configure your ship. So right here I can hit add rear thruster, and this adds a little thing where you can basically place these thrusters on your ship. So say, for example, if I don't want to put a thruster here, because this is supposed to be like an old style kind of plane, but it's now it's a spaceship, I'm going to put a thruster like right here. Boom. Cool. I'm going to add another rear thruster. I'm going to put that like right here. Sweet. So rear thrusters are activated when your ship accelerates. They don't necessarily have to be located on the rear of the ship, but they do point backwards. So you could add that there. And then I have a little note here about how I intend side thrusters to be used. So side thrusters are activated when you turn or strafe. Try to put these in places where they would make sense. You could have up to 20 of each type. Even larger ships only have 3 to 5 of each type. Smaller ships usually have 1 to 2 at most. So you can see here I've already got 2 on the fighter. Now I'm going to add a rear left thruster. So I'm going to put that on the rear left here. Boom, we got one there. I'm going to add a rear right just for fun. And you can see the position of these buttons kind of correlate to where they would go on the ship. Like if your ship was just right here in the middle. So left front thruster, I'm going to put that like right here. You can barely see that one. I'm going to put that one like right here. So what I need to do is I need to figure out how to basically move something after I've already placed it, which is kind of messy to do. So what I think I might do is I might just have an undo button, and then you'll be able to just delete any node you place and then try again. So for example, this node right here, this little thruster on the front, that wasn't very good. It wasn't in a good spot. So I'm probably going to get rid of that, right? I haven't put that in yet, but that's something I'm going to do. So once you've got thrusters on here, I mean, you could like name your ship. So this doesn't do anything yet, but it's going to. So I can name this something like Coalition Fighter or Plane. Because that's what it is. It's a plane in space, right? And then I can type up some awesome description here. The Coalition plane is an old world style spaceship that blah, blah, blah. You know? So you could type in what the ship description is. And then you can go to the variables tab, and you can actually set what it does. So for example, if I want to set the max speed of this thing to something like, I don't know, like 400. You can see once I set it, now it starts moving. I can set the acceleration to something like 2. I can set the strafe to be, I don't know, like 1. Deceleration can be 1. Turn speed, I want this thing to be kind of agile, so maybe I'll do like 90. Boost speed, I want it to be super fast when it boosts. For HP, it's probably not going to have much because it's just a little fighter, so I'm going to give it like 50, maybe like 75 shields. The AI attack range, I'm going to add like a little tooltip that explains what every one of these things does as well. Maybe I want this to be something like, I don't know, 500. How much cargo space does this have? Only like 5, not much. And then I'm going to have this carrier only, like the number of deployable ships. This won't even show up if it's not a carrier. So I have to add a few more things to determine, like, hey, what tags should we add to this ship? And you see I got a tab here for weapons that I haven't done anything with yet, and I have a tab for upgrades, which I haven't done anything with yet. So, but the goal is, once you fill all this out and everything is like valid, you can actually save it as a ship and you can load it into the game. And there's some things I have to do behind the scenes to like hook it all up. But once you save it as a scene and you add it to my list of ships and stuff like that, which this tool will do all that automatically, this will allow modders to basically make their own ships in the game. You can load your own sprites and stuff like that. And I kind of want to do something like this for every part of the game. You want to make a cool new weapon? Awesome. What type of weapon is it? What kind of projectile does it fire? You can add your own projectile. Maybe you might want to add your own particle effects and stuff like that. Maybe you want to add your own worlds and like backgrounds that are repeatable for the space and stuff like that. So, and then of course the Starship Mapper tool that I was using, I'm going to redo that in the game as well. So you could basically make a total conversion mod. And my intent is to have this something that you can unlock in the game. I don't necessarily want it enabled out of the box because I want the players to at least experience the game how I intended it to, and then, you know, once you do a playthrough of it, maybe it unlocks this mod section. You can start creating mods. You can load mods. If you really want to do it, you can probably just go into a config file and enable it. But I'm not going to put it in the game at the start. I just want it to be there eventually to add some more replayability to the game, because a lot of the single player games I like, one of the things I like about them is that after you finish them, there's tons of mods. There's mods you can play that range from simple stuff like quality of life to like total conversion mods to where they add a bunch of new things and it's like a whole new world. And I kind of want to do that here. And I think that would be really fun to do. So this is what this is the start of. And realistically, what this is going to let me do is this is going to let me create ships much easier. Because if I were to save this right now, which it won't let me, but if I were to save that right now, what it's going to do is it's basically going to create an actual ship. And so if I did this like arrowhead here, you can see it's going to create like this whole scene. This thruster looks wrong because I had tweaked thrusters. I'll get into that in just a second. But you can see it's creating this whole scene. It's actually setting up my ship thrusters here. It's adding the thrusters where they need to go. And it is... yeah, so it's doing that. We're doing setting the sprite, we're doing collision shape and polygons, and we're doing shields and occluders, and it's basically setting up all of this how it needs to be for this ship to actually function. And it's just doing it right there, as opposed to me going scene by scene and manually doing it. I can just create them on the fly quickly, and then I can give that ability to players and modders in the future as well. And also, I created a scene or a theme. So you might have saw that this window kind of looks a little different. So if I just pick something else out here, I want to look firewall, boom. So you can see like we got buttons and stuff like that. We got like a color scheme kind of going on. It's simple, but it works. I like it. And it's pretty snazzy, I think. It's basic, but it's snazzy. So there you go. Those are what I've done since the last episode. I took the dynamic sprite stuff and I brought that over into this modder ship creator screen. And then I also created my theme. So I'm about halfway done with this screen. There's still some things I have to add to it. I want to add like an undo kind of button to undo the last action you did, and then handle the weapons and the upgrades and stuff like that. So I want to put those on here. And then once it's all there, I want to tidy it all together so you can You can just create a ship, it adds it to the game, bam, it's done. And then, yeah, awesome. I like it. So let's go into the code review portion. And I've only got about 20, maybe 30 minutes to talk about it. So let's jump in. So this screen, I basically created a whole new node. This is the layout of this screen here. Again, I'm using Godot 3.6 for this project. I tried porting it to Godot 4 a while ago, broke some things. I didn't really want to fix them, so I just kept staying on the Godot 3 engine. So here I just have a control node that I call mod or ship creator. I have a panel, and then I have a margin container, which just adds a little margin to kind of put everything in to make it look nicer. I have an HBox container, a horizontal box, to basically just split this into two sections, so left and right. So on the left here, you see I've got like name your ship, and then I have the viewport and the ship description. And then on the right side, I have like my tabs for thrusters, variables, weapons, etc. So on the left side, we have a VBox container for the left side, and there I have, you know, the label, the line edit. I have the viewport container and a viewport. In that viewport, I've added my parallax background to it, and then I have the label and the text edit for the ship description. And then here's the VBox container for the right side, where I just have a tab container, which just handles the tabs. So inside each tab area, inside of this, I just have like margin containers for everything I want. That way, again, it kind of adds a margin around the borders of the area to keep the content nice. That way it's not like right on the edge, because it looks jarring that way. And I just, for every tab, I have some things in there. And then I have this file dialog that pops up if you don't already have a sprite selected. So my intent for this is to not only create ships, but also modify existing scenes as well. So I'll be able to load a ship, and yeah, so I'm excited about that. Should be cool. Anyway, so that's the layout. Let's take a look at the code. So I've got like 400 some odd lines of code. A lot of it is can be simplified, but so I'm declaring some variables, simple, the same stuff I had before, file path and file. That's just the loading the sprite so I can generate my stuff for it. The simplification number to determine, you know, how simple the polygon should be. And then I'm declaring a scene name so that I can save it. And then since we're customizing a ship, I'm holding that variable in a thing called ship, in a variable called ship. And I also have a placer node. So placer is what I use to place the thrusters and stuff. I'm also going to use that to place the weapons and everything too. So then what we're doing here is in our ready function, which is called when the scene enters the scene tree for the first time. I'm just saying, hey, do we have a ship? If we don't have a valid ship, we're going to pop up the file dialog because we're going to create one from an image. So then I have this convert image to new ship, which is a heavily modified version of that convert image to stuff or whatever I had from the last the sprite test thing I was doing from the last devlog. And so here I have a note that basically says, we'll initialize a brand new ship so we can add to it as we go. We'll need to have all the pieces added to it before we bring it into the scene tree. So you can see here, this is the expected structure, and it follows the structure of like what I had over here for this ship that I was showing off earlier. So we have the ship, we have a ship thrusters node with all the thrusters as children of that. We have our sprite, we have our area 2D, and we have any collision polygons 2D, any collision polygon 2Ds as children of that node. We have our ship weapons, and then we have any weapon slots as children of that. We have our shields, and then we have our sprite, our shield for our sprite as a child of that. And then we have our occluders and any of our occluders as children of that. So that's what the structure should be, because all of these nodes kind of manage their own parts individually. So here I'm just creating my ship. I'm setting the name because every time we create the node, we're setting the name. Otherwise, it gets set to something weird like @109 or something like that. It's weird. So we're setting up our thrusters, even though we don't have any yet. So I'm creating that ship thrusters node. Again, a lot of this stuff is just going through and it's just creating the structure. So we're doing that. And then we're doing a lot of the same code that we were doing last time, where we're taking that image, we're converting it to a bitmap, we're getting the rectangle of the used area of that bitmap. We're basically trimming the sprite down. So if I haven't cropped it already, it'll just make it as small as possible. Like, I mean, it'll trim all the empty space around it. And then I'm using that opaque to polygons method, which, fun fact, I actually wrote a description for that. It's not in there yet. So if you look at this opaque to polygons method here, it says there's currently no description for this method. Please help us by contributing one. I actually did. So if we go to my contributions, you can see here we have description of changes. I added a description that was missing from opaque to polygons method of bitmap. So I am a contributor to the Godot engine now, no matter how small, right? So what did I do? I just basically did what they recommended. I forked the Godot repository. I saw where they were storing their documents, which was in their docs section. There's classes, there's the bitmap, and then I just added the description that I just kept the same formatting that the other ones had. So I looked in the source code to see what this did, because I spent a few days kind of going over it. And from what I can tell, and I think I'm right, it generates polygon outlines from the opaque or non-transparent areas of the bitmap using a marching squares algorithm. And there's a whole, if you're curious, look into that, because I don't have time to talk about that, unfortunately, today. I didn't write that. I just, inside the code, it's called March Square. So I was like, I wonder if that's the algorithm. And sure enough, it's a marching squares algorithm. So returns an array of pool vector 2 array, which is basically that 2D array. Because again, remember, a pool vector 2 array is an array that's especially designed to hold vector 2s. So we have an array of arrays of vector 2s. It's a 2D array. So where each pool vector 2 array represents a polygon outline. These outlines can be directly assigned to the polygon property of nodes like collision polygon 2D or occluder polygon 2D, which is exactly what I'm doing in my code. The epsilon parameter controls the polygon simplification. A lower value produces more accurate polygons, but at the cost of increased polygon size and potential performance impact. A higher value simplifies the polygons, reducing their size and improving performance, but with less accuracy. So that's the thing I put on there. It was kind of cool. I did it wrong initially. It's taken forever to load. There we go. So when I first did it, I was actually targeting the 3.6 branch of Godot, but since it's a documentation thing, they changed it to target 3.x because, you know, it's applicable to all of them. So they kind of went through, they changed it, and then they did some stuff I forgot to do. So they rebased it on top of 3.x. They squashed all the commits and they removed some trailing white space that I had in my file because I didn't format it right. And then they basically approved it and merged it. Cool. Awesome. So I'm a contributor to Godot. Woohoo! Woohoo! Anyway, back to what my code's doing. So I'm using that opaque to polygons. Again, I'm doing a lot of the same stuff I did last time. Basically it's the same code. I just copied and pasted it, and then I just tweaked it to work for my new stuff. Here I'm doing something new. I'm doing the ship shield. So I'm basically scaling the size of the shield just based on the sprite. So I'm kind of doing that dynamically. And then doing an area 2D, all that. Cool. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing all of that. And then finally what I'm doing is for my ship, I'm setting the display mode to be true. I added a new variable. It's called show thrusters. So that way when I'm placing thrusters, they actually appear because it doesn't do that by default. And then I added that ship to my viewport. And then I added a camera to that ship. So that way it shows up in the viewport and it's centered and it looks good and all that stuff. And then here's a lot of other crap about saving the scene that I'm not using yet. And then, so yeah. So now I have a bunch of connector functions that happen when you press various things. So for example, when I add the rear thruster, let's see, what am I doing here? All right, so here's all the stuff for the variables. So whenever I am doing these, where are they? 2D, let's see, in my tab container, let's set our current tab to be 1. There we go. So these fields here, these are all line edit fields. And what they do is they only work with strings. So it's only text. However, a lot of these variables, I have to convert them to floats or integers, and I have to do it reliably. So what I actually did is I made some functions in my util auto load. And if I go down here, so I have a sanitized float. It's a regular expression to enforce valid string conversion for float. So what I'm doing is I'm preparing the regex. I'm compiling it every time, which I'm just probably going to throw this in like in init function in my util auto load. That way it only has to do it once. But for now, I just threw it in here. So we're sanitizing the string. So what we're doing is we're basically removing anything that's not a number or a period, because that's the only thing that we want. So if I type in 1, 2, 3 ABC, it's only going to come out with 1, 2, 3. A string that has 1, 2, 3. And then once we're doing that, I want to ensure that we only have one period. So I don't want like 1.2.3.4. So what it's going to do is if we have that 1.2.3.4, it's going to make it 1.234. It's going to keep the leftmost period. So what we're doing is we're finding the first instance of that period in the string. We're splitting the string at that position. And then we're basically sanitizing that last part of the string, and we're removing any other instances of the period. And we're just assembling that and returning it. So this is a function that's just making sure that we always have a valid float. And what this is, and the cool thing is that what this does is, since I'm calling this every time the text is changed, I'm setting it to our text to equal the sanitized text. Now, at first I thought this might introduce an infinite loop. So I did some print debugging in it, and it doesn't. It doesn't. It's not caught in like a cyclic infinite loop. Because in theory, this text change signal would fire whenever the text is changed, right? But if I'm setting the text here and I'm changing it, wouldn't that fire it again and it would just keep going and going and going? Thankfully, it doesn't. Godot handles that, so awesome. So I'm free to do that because I was prepared to handle that like in a different way, and I'm glad I didn't have to. So that's cool. So once we're doing that, I'm just able to call this float conversion since I'm already enforcing that it's going to be a valid float, and I'm just setting it to convert what our value is from our sanitized string to be our whatever variable we are setting. So that's what all these are doing here. That's why a lot of this code exists, is because we're just basically connecting them to individual fields and we're all updating all the stuff. And then for let's go back to the 2D here. I'm going to switch this tab back to 0 like it was. So for our thrusters, whenever we click one of these buttons, like whenever we click add rear thruster, what this is doing is it's calling this function here. So we're just saying, hey, do we already have a placer? What is a placer? Well, let's get into that in just a second. So if we do already have a placer, which I'm storing in a variable up here, I'm just saying, hey, do we already have a thing we're placing already? Then if we do nothing. It's basically what I'm doing here. So if we do already have a valid placer, We're just returning early. It's not doing anything. If we don't, that means that we're good to create a placer. So we are creating a placer, which is a node that I made. So we're loading and instancing that placer scene, which I'll show you in just a second. We are setting some variables. So on that placer, I have thing path and thing type. So the thing path is the thing that we're going to be placing. So I'm just passing in the path to that thing. So in this case, we're placing a large ship thruster. So I'm just passing in the path to that scene. And then I'm setting some other variables here, like what type it is. It's a thruster. What's the ship we're placing it onto? So I'm passing in the reference to that ship I've already created. And then I'm adding the placer to the scene. And I'm just placing it like in the upper right corner of my viewport, basically. So what the placer is, if we take a look at this, it's just a node 2D that has a script attached to it. I've got 2 line 2Ds so you can kind of easily see where it's at and you can place it. And then I have an area 2D and a collision shape that I can use to detect whether or not we're actually touching the ship. We have to touch the ship in order to actually place it, because you can't imagine how stupid it'd be placing thrusters like in the middle of nowhere, and like it would look silly, right? So I want to enforce that they're actually touching the a ship, and I'm detecting that with this little area 2D collision. I just have a little collision shape on here. That's all it is. So the script for this is we have the variables that we were playing with earlier, and what I'm doing here is I declare a few other things. So basically, a placer exists to place a thing on the ship. That thing could be a thruster, it could be a weapon slot, it could be like a ship upgrade that you can see, because one of the things I want to do with the upgrades is I want them to actually show up on your ship, so that as you're fighting and you can see upgrades on people's ships so you can know what they are. I think that'd be a cool thing. So you can place those wherever you want. That's one of my goals. So, and then I have colors here. So I have a color for it being valid or invalid. Basically, it's like green for valid. It's like a lime green. And then if it's invalid, it's red. So that's what that is. And then when I'm in my ready function, which is called when the node enters the scene tree for the first time, I'm setting the alpha of those colors because I don't want them to be exact. I want them to be kind of like somewhat transparent. And then I'm creating the thing, which again, we're loading the thing path, and then we're instancing it. And we're making sure that we have a valid thing. I'm not really handling this that well. I'm just printing it if we have an invalid path or an invalid thing. And then I'm adding the thing as my child, as a child of this placer. And I'm calling this set colors function. And what this set colors function does is that it's just basically setting everything. It's setting the thing and then the lines to be green if it's valid and red if it's invalid. So that way you can clearly tell whether or not it's ready to be placed. So once we do that, that's what it is. And so in my process function, which is called every frame, I'm basically getting the mouse position. And I'm determining if that mouse position is within the bounds that I have set for this viewport. So you could see I had a little comment here because I did not do this in the best way. I'm tired as fuck, and I can't find a great way to dynamically getting the viewport without either calling up or passing in a reference to the viewport. So screw it. The viewport is 934 by 700. The camera is right in the middle of it. So if the mouse position is between half that in either direction, you're good. So you can see here, I'm doing logic to reflect that train of thought. So I have a vector 2 that just basically determines what my viewport size is, 934 by 700. And I have a variable called leeway. I'm basically having that. So 700 will go to 350, right? I'm just having that. And then so I have this long if statement that's just basically checking, hey, is the mouse position, greater than, and it's just calculating that just to make sure it's within the bounds of the viewport. If it is, then we're going to set the global position of our placer to equal our mouse position, which is the mouse global position. And then I have a thing that's tracking if we're clicking it. So basically, if we click, if it's the mouse button and it's button left and it's pressed, I'm calling my place item method. And this place item basically says, do we have a ship and are we valid? To do, these are kind of the same, whatevs. So I have a variable called valid. And then at the time, I was setting a variable called ship to be whatever we were colliding with. And I was removing it when we weren't. So I'm going to get rid of this to do because it's no longer valid. So we're basically saying, hey, are we valid? What determines if we're valid? Well, we have these area 2Ds, and every time we have an area entered, I'm setting valid to be true, and I'm setting the colors. And then every time we exit the area, which is of the ship, we are setting it to be false. So that's what's determined whether or not we are valid. So I'm basically saying, hey, are we valid? If not, nothing to do. I'm just returning early, stopping execution, and then nothing happens. If we are valid, we're going to place the thing. So then we're loading the thing path. We're just creating a brand new instance of it. And then we are rotating it. Thing angle. I don't think I need that anymore because I'm already rotating the placer itself. So I don't even need that. Cool. And then I'm matching the thing type. So currently right now I only have thruster and slots. And what this is doing is this is making sure that we're placing it as a child of the right node of the ship. So I don't want to place a thruster in the weapons section or vice versa, right? So I want to make sure I'm actually adding it to the ship where it needs to go in the scene tree, as well as physically where it needs to go in a 2D plane, like where it needs to go on the ship itself. So then once I'm doing that, I'm ensuring that the position is set properly. I'm doing global position because of how it is. It's in a viewport inside of a control node. Things kind of get wonky. It wasn't tracking properly. So if I just do everything global position, and with vector math, I'm just taking the global position of our placer, like where we were actually placed. I'm subtracting the global position of the ship, and that is actually your position of where that should be. So I'm setting that to be that position, and I'm also rotating it based on how the placer itself is rotated. So easy peasy. So the thing is placed, we're going to destroy ourselves. So then we destroy the placer, and that's what it's doing. That's a lot of the code that it's doing. So I have a thing to place it, and I need to add some more things to it, but this is a good start to making a little thing to help me create ships faster, as well as be a modding tool for in the future. Anyway, it is 7:04 in the morning, and I have to get ready for work. I don't want to go to work, man. Oh. Yeah, the reason why I'm up so early is because I I got home from work yesterday, pretty much just grabbed a quick snack, and then I went right to bed. And then I woke up at about 2. And I've been doing market research. I call it market research. I've been playing Escape Velocity Nova, which is the main inspiration for this game. And then I've been working on my game. So this is the progress I got. What's next? What's next is finishing this modder ship creator. So I'm going to fill out the rest of these tabs here. I'm going to add some options. I need to figure out how to move things that have already been placed. And yeah, so I have to figure that out. Oh, God. And then, so I also need to, because I have to figure that out. And then once I do all that, I have to make it also so I can load existing scenes and edit those ships as well. And then basically I need to make it all, I need to tie it all together. So when I save it, I need to actually save it as a scene. which I was already kind of doing in my test section here. I'm already kind of saving those as their own scenes. But I also need to add it to this auto load that I have that is, well, it's not an auto load, I guess. Yeah, auto load, here we go. I need to add it to the ship's auto load, which is basically just a JSON thing of all the ships, is what it is. It's got the name of the ship, it's got the description of the ship, it's got the path to the scene, it's got what factions it belongs to, as well as what this, I don't think ship class is even used anymore, because I haven't got rid of that yet. But how much is the ship going to cost? What are the tags that it has? So this one has cruiser, electrical, mechanical, and ship. So you can tell it's a ship and it's a cruiser and it's electrical. So I just basically need to add it to this list. And I also need a way to preserve the original one in case you want to like unload a mod or revert back to how you had it. You can do that. So that's my goal, is to add it to this list. And then once you do that with my like star systems and stuff like that, add it to like the random list of ships that can be spawned there and things like that. And so, yeah, but mostly just adding it to this list, because I think that determines everything else. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to get my happy ass in the shower. And, oh my God, I do not want to go to work. I'm stalling right now because I don't want to go to work. Oh, I just want to keep working on my game. But yeah, there you go. That's the start of the modder ship creator, ship creation screen. And yeah, it's also the start to my theme, which I'm going to show you really quick. Where is my UI themes? Basic UI, cool. So you can see here, I started this theme. So this allows you to like give you a preview of your theme here. And making a theme was actually a lot easier than I thought. So these are the nodes that I have overwritten. That's it. So for example, for the button, if you add like a node that you want to override what the default theme is, you can just pick it out here. And then you can go here to override all, and it will basically show you all the things that you can change, and it will just initialize them to the default. So you don't have to like redo everything. So then you could just change what you want. So here I added this H separation. I set that to be 2. For the font, I set it to be the font that I want, which actually of the whole theme, I found out I can set a default font. So that's cool. And then, for the colors, like for the various states of the button, so when you hover over it, what color does it have? So if we look at this style box here, you can see I set the color. I also set the corner radius so that they're kind of rounded. I also set the shadow, so they have a little bit of a shadow, but not much. And so I just did that with every little thing. So for example, panel. If we look at the panel, you can see we have a style box here. So you can see I have the color as like this kind of dark gray. And then I have a border that is 3 pixels wide. It's got a border color, which is like a darker kind of blue that I'm going with here. And I'm setting my corner radius to make them rounded. I'm also setting the shadow to be 5 on this one. So I just started making this theme, and you can see I haven't done everything yet. So the text edit box looks kind of, it's got different. The line edit's been done, but then these sliders aren't really working how I want them to. So I got to work on those still. So everything's kind of coming into place though. Now, I wish it had the option to set like colors, like primary, secondary kind of colors for your UI. That would be nice. So what I'm having to do is every time I create a style box, I have a section in my main script that I just put a bunch of comments in that has UI stuff. And I'm kind of tracking my colors here. So for the blue color, I have the basic blue. I have a light variant. I have a dark variant. and then I have the background color, and then I have a disabled color, and that's kind of what I've got. So every time I have to go into a style box, I just go back in here and copy and paste the color I want and just paste it in there, and it gets the right color because I'm colorblind, slightly color deficient, and so I can't really tell shades and stuff that well. So it seems to work out fine though. I think it looks great. Anyway, that is enough of me rambling. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And oh my God, I hope I can make it through work. I'll see you in whatever video I make next.